The screech of metal on metal ripped through the gray dawn like a confession too long buried. Betty Hayes gripped her worn leather satchel tighter, the faint scent of rain-soaked concrete rising from the platform at Chicago's Union Station, her heart pounding in rhythm with the distant rumble of the approaching Amtrak. She was running, not from the law or some shadowy ex, but from the hollow ache of a life scripted by everyone but her. The newsroom grind in New York that demanded her fire but left her soul smoldering, the family whispers back in Atlanta about settling down with a nice guy, the mirror that stared back each morning with eyes too weary for 28. And now this. A cross-country ticket to Seattle, bought on a whim after her editor killed her latest piece on queer invisibility in the heartland, muttering something about sticking to safer stories. Safer. The word tasted like ash on her tongue. She boarded the Lakeshore Limited with the precision of someone who'd mapped every escape route in her mind. The car smelled of fresh coffee from the cafe cart and the faint, nostalgic tang of polished wood paneling, a relic of trains that promised adventure but delivered solitude. Betty slid into a window seat in the observation lounge, her dark curls escaping their ponytail as she pulled out her notebook, the pages already filling with jagged scribbles. Questions about freedom, lines blurring between fear and desire. The train lurched forward, a low groan echoing through the undercarriage, and she pressed her forehead to the cool glass, watching the city's skyline dissolve into the misty sprawl of Illinois farmland. Breathe, she told herself, the word a silent exhale fogging the pain. Just breathe. 2 cars down, Jennifer Cole nursed a black coffee in the dining car, her fingers tracing the rim of the styrofoam cup as if it held answers instead of lukewarm bitterness. At 32, she was a graphic designer from Milwaukee's East Side, the kind who turned corporate logos into quiet rebellions, subtle rainbows hidden in color palettes for clients who never noticed. But lately, her sketches had veered personal, fragmented portraits of women with eyes like storm clouds, hands reaching but never quite clasping. It started after the breakup with Mark, her fiancé of 3 years, who proposed in a candlelit restaurant overlooking Lake Michigan, the ring glinting like a handcuff. She'd said yes out of habit, out of the terror that saying no meant unraveling everything. The cozy brownstone they shared, the family barbecues in her parents' Wauwatosa backyard where dad grilled brats and mom passed potato salad with knowing smiles. But 2 months later, alone in that same brownstone, she'd shattered the ring under her heel, the crack echoing like a door slamming on a lie. Now fleeing to Portland for a freelance gig designing murals for a queer youth center, Jennifer felt the weight of it all pressing like the humid air before a Midwest thunderstorm. She wandered toward the lounge car for a better view, her freckled cheeks still warm from the steam of the coffee, her auburn hair falling loose over a faded band tee from an old Indigo Girls concert. The train's sway was hypnotic, a gentle rock that mimicked the pulse in her throat. That's when she saw her, the woman by the window, profile sharp against the passing cornfields, pen hovering over paper like it was carving secrets from the air. Jennifer paused, coffee sloshing softly in her cup, a sudden dryness in her mouth that had nothing to do with caffeine. There was something in the way the stranger's shoulders curved, protective yet open, like an invitation wrapped in caution. She should keep walking. Seats were scarce, sure, but excuses were plentiful. Instead, she murmured, "Mind if I join? These views are too good to hog." Betty looked up, her brown eyes widening just a fraction, the pen slipping from her fingers to tap against the armrest. Up close, the woman was all soft edges. Laugh lines faint around green eyes, a smudge of charcoal on her thumb from some absent sketch pad. "Only if you don't mind my chaos," Betty replied, her voice low and laced with that southern lilt she'd never quite shaken, gesturing to the notebook splayed open like a confessional. Jennifer slid into the seat across, the vinyl creaking under her, and for a moment, the only sound was the rhythmic clack of wheels on tracks, a steady heartbeat underscoring the silence. "I'm Jennifer," she said, extending a hand, her palm slightly damp. "Nerves or the coffee's fault?" Betty took it, the contact electric, warm skin against warm skin lingering a beat too long before pulling away. "Betty, heading west to figure some things out." Jennifer nodded, sipping her drink to hide the flush creeping up her neck. "Same. Portland's calling, but Chicago's got a hell of a goodbye grip." They laughed, the sound light and tentative, like rain pattering on a tin roof. easing the knot in Betty's chest. As the landscape blurred, golden fields giving way to shadowed woods, conversation unfurled in fits and starts. Betty shared snippets of her journalism life. The thrill of chasing stories in dive bars and protest lines. The sting of words twisted by editors into something palatable. Jennifer countered with tales of late-night design sessions, pixels bleeding into dreams, the quiet rebellion of embedding hidden messages in ad campaigns. Hours slipped by, marked by the sun climbing higher, casting shafts of light that danced across their faces. Betty caught herself staring at the way Jennifer's fingers gestured animatedly, nails short and painted a chipped navy, evoking the vastness of Lake Superior she'd once sketched. And Jennifer? She memorized the cadence of Betty's voice. The way it dipped on certain words, like home, carried the weight of unspoken longings. Lunch came and went. Shared sandwiches from the cafe. Turkey on rye with mustard sharp enough to make them wince and grin. You eat like someone who's interviewed too many sources on empty stomachs, Jennifer teased, and Betty's retort. And you design like you're hiding maps to buried treasure, hung between them, charged with an undercurrent neither named. By afternoon, the train hummed through Indiana's rolling hills, the air in the lounge thicker with the scent of pine drifting through a cracked window. Betty's notebook lay forgotten. Instead, they traded vulnerabilities like cards in a high-stakes game. Ever feel like you're on the wrong track? Jennifer asked, her voice barely above the engine's drone. Eyes fixed on a distant silo. Betty paused, the question slicing clean through her defenses. She thought of the women she'd loved in fleeting college nights, their touches ghosts in her memory, buried under layers of straight-passing armor. Every damn day, she admitted, the words a slow exhale, her hand brushing Jennifer's knee accidentally, or not, as she shifted. The touch lingered, unspoken permission in the non-withdrawal, a spark igniting dry tinder. As dusk painted the sky in bruised purples, they moved to the vestibule between cars, the door hissing shut behind them like a secret sealed. The wind whipped through the grating, carrying the metallic tang of rails and the earthy promise of evening. Jennifer leaned against the railing, her shoulder inches from Betty's, the proximity a gravity neither resisted. I left a life back there, Jennifer confessed, voice trembling like leaves in the breeze. One that fit everyone else's puzzle but mine. Betty turned, their faces close now, breaths mingling in the cooling air. Then let's make our own, she whispered, the words raw, propelled by the ache blooming in her chest. Their lips met tentatively, soft and searching, the kiss tasting of salt from unshed tears and the sweet residue of shared lip balm. The train jolted over a switch, but they held steady, hands finding waists, fingers threading through hair, the world narrowing to this rattling cocoon of steel and steam. Night fell hard, stars pricking the velvet sky visible through the lounge's dome. They retreated to Betty's sleeper berth, the narrow space a universe unto itself, curtains drawn against prying eyes, the bunk's mattress dipping under their weight. Whispers turned to sighs, clothes shedding like old skins. Betty's jacket tossed aside, revealing the curve of her collarbone. Jennifer's scarf unraveling, exposing the freckles dusting her shoulders. Touches were reverent, exploratory. Fingertips tracing ribs, palms cupping faces, the heat building slow like a fire kindled in damp wood. I've wanted this, Betty murmured against Jennifer's neck, her voice husky, the scent of vanilla from Jennifer's skin intoxicating. Jennifer arched, a soft gasp escaping. Me too. God, me too. Their bodies moved in sync with the train's sway. A symphony of rustles and moans muffled by pillows, climax crashing like waves on an unseen shore, leaving them tangled and breathless, hearts sinking to the endless clatter. Morning light filtered through the curtains on day 2, the train slicing through Ohio's Buckeye Groves. Betty woke first, Jennifer's head pillowed on her chest, auburn strands splayed like autumn leaves. She traced lazy patterns on Jennifer's back, the skin warm and yielding, a quiet wonder settling in her bones. This wasn't fleeting, it felt like arrival. But as the cafe cart rattled past, doubt crept in, their stops looming, lives pulling like opposing tracks. Jennifer stirred, green eyes fluttering open, a sleepy smile curving her lips. Morning, troublemaker. They laughed, the sound easy, but Betty's hug tightened a fraction, unspoken fears hovering. The day unfolded in lazy intimacy. Shared breakfasts of flaky croissants crumbling onto napkins, stolen kisses in shadowed corners, stories deepening like roots. Jennifer sketched Betty in the margins of a newspaper, capturing the tilt of her head, the spark in her gaze. Betty read aloud from her notebook, verses about hidden loves finding light, her voice weaving magic in the confined air. Yet tension simmered. Over lunch in the dining car amid clinking silverware and murmured conversations from other passengers, Jennifer's phone buzzed. A text from her sister. Mom's asking about the wedding. Call home. The color drained from her face, fork pausing mid-air. Betty's hand covered hers under the table, thumb stroking knuckles. You don't have to go back to that, she said softly, but the words felt fragile against the pull of habit. Afternoon brought Pennsylvania's Appalachian foothills, the tracks winding like veins through mist-shrouded valleys. They hiked the lounge's steps to the upper deck, wind tousling their hair, the vista a blur of green and gray. What if this ends at the station? Jennifer asked, voice cracking like thin ice, leaning into Betty's side. Betty swallowed, the chill seeping through her sweater. Then we reroute. Together. The promise hung, earnest but untested, as thunder rumbled distant, heralding storms ahead. Rain lashed the windows that evening, turning the world outside into a watercolor smear of slate and silver as the train barreled toward Pittsburgh. Inside the sleeper, Betty and Jennifer lay entwined, the patter on glass a soothing counterpoint to their hushed confessions. Jennifer's fingers idly combed through Betty's curls, each tug sending shivers down her spine. I used to draw escape routes as a kid, Jennifer admitted, her breath warm against Betty's temple. Little maps from my bedroom to anywhere but here. Wisconsin winters, family expectations, the boy next door who kissed like he was reading a script. Betty shifted, propping on an elbow, her dark eyes searching Jennifer's face in the dim overhead light. The birth smelled of them now, sweat and shampoo, an intimate musk that grounded the moment. And now? Betty asked, voice a velvet rumble. Jennifer's laugh was bittersweet, a puff of air that stirred Betty's hair. Now I'm on one. With you. She pulled Betty closer, their legs tangling beneath the thin blanket, lips brushing in a kiss that started tender but deepened with urgency, tongues exploring like cartographers charting new lands. Hands roamed freely, Betty's palm sliding up Jennifer's thigh, eliciting a whimper that vibrated through them both. Jennifer's nails grazing Betty's back, leaving faint trails of fire. The rain intensified, drumming like applause, masking the creak of the bunk as they moved together, hips grinding in slow, deliberate circles, breath sinking in ragged harmony. Release came in waves, Jennifer's cry muffled against Betty's shoulder, Betty's name a mantra on her lips. They collapsed, slick and spent, the storm outside mirroring the one they'd weathered within. Dawn broke clearer on day 3, the train threading through the Alleghenies' rugged spine, peaks cloaked in fog like forgotten dreams. Betty slipped out for coffee, returning with 2 steaming mugs and a pilfered Danish, the flaky pastry shedding crumbs on the sheets. Jennifer sat up, sheet pooled at her waist, her body a landscape of curves and shadows that made Betty's pulse stutter. You're staring, Jennifer teased, but her eyes held a vulnerability, green depths reflecting the morning haze. Betty handed over the mug, their fingers brushing, the ceramic warm as their shared gaze. Can't help it. You're real. They ate in companionable silence, the only sounds the sip of coffee, bitter and bold, and the occasional honk of a distant barge on the Ohio River below. Conversation meandered to safer shores. Favorite dive bars in their cities, the crunch of autumn leaves underfoot in Central Park versus Milwaukee's lakefront paths. But the undercurrent pulled stronger. My editor called last night, Betty said, scrolling her phone with feigned nonchalance, the screen's glow harsh against her skin. Wants me back for a real assignment. Politics in D.C. Jennifer's fork paused, yogurt dripping onto the tray. The air thickened, charged like the moments before lightning. And Seattle? She asked, voice steady but eyes betraying the storm. Betty set the phone down, the clunk echoing. Was supposed to be my reset. But now. She reached across, cupping Jennifer's cheek, thumb tracing the freckle constellation there. Now it's us. The lounge car became their sanctuary that afternoon, sunlight slanting through panoramic windows as West Virginia's hollers unfolded below, rivers snaking like silver threads, coal tipples stark against verdant slopes. They played cards pilfered from the game shelf, gin rummy with stakes of kisses. A loss meant a peck on the neck, a win a lingering press against the ear. Laughter bubbled freely, Jennifer's head thrown back, the sound bright and unfiltered, chasing shadows from Betty's furrowed brow. Yet midway through a hand, Jennifer's expression shifted, cards fanning forgotten. "I keep waiting for the catch," she confessed, voice dropping to a whisper amid the lounge's murmur of strangers' chatter. "Like this us is too good too fast. What if I'm just running from one cage to another?" Betty's heart clenched, the queen of hearts slipping from her fingers to the floor. She knelt to retrieve it, buying time, the carpet rough under her knees. Rising, she straddled Jennifer's lap in the booth's privacy, ignoring the raised eyebrows from a couple across the way. "Then we build the door ourselves," Betty murmured, forehead to forehead, the scent of Jennifer's citrus shampoo a lifeline. Their kiss was fierce, a claim staked against doubt, hands fisting fabric, the world fading to the press of bodies and the faint jangle of the snack machine. Whispers followed them back to the berth. Promises etched in skin, fears voiced and kissed away. Evening brought the Monongahela Valley, fireflies winking like errant stars as the train paused at a rural stop. They stepped onto the platform for air, gravel crunching under sneakers, the night alive with cricket choruses and the distant low of cattle. Jennifer linked arms with Betty, their silhouettes merging under sodium lamps. "Remember that first touch?" Jennifer asked, voice soft against the cooling breeze. Betty nodded, the memory vivid, the spark in the lounge electric and inevitable. Felt like coming home. They stood there, breaths visible in the chill, until the conductor's call pulled them aboard, the door sealing with a pneumatic sigh. Sleep came fitful that night, dreams tangled with train whistles and phantom rings. Jennifer bolted awake near midnight, sweat damp, the ghost of Mark's proposal replaying in her mind, the restaurant's clatter, the velvet box snapping open like a trap. Betty stirred, arm draping over her waist, an anchor in the dark. "Talk to me," Betty mumbled, voice thick with sleep, her body curving protectively. Jennifer turned into the embrace, tears hot on her cheeks. He was safe, predictable. "But you're the risk I crave." Betty kissed her eyelids, salt lingering on her lips. "And worth every mile." They made love then, slow and deliberate, bodies mapping forgiveness, lips on collarbones, fingers delving deep, gasp sinking with the engine's thrum. Dawn found them sated, the valley giving way to Maryland's gentle rolls. Breakfast was a ritual now. Eggs scrambled loose from the cafe, shared with knees bumping under the tiny table. Betty's phone buzzed again, her mother this time, voicemail laced with concern. "Baby girl, that city's eating you alive. Come home for Thanksgiving. Bring someone nice." The words landed like pebbles in still water, ripples of guilt spreading. Jennifer noticed, her fork tracing patterns in her plate. "Family." Betty nodded, exhaling slow, the steam from her tea curling like unspoken replies. "They mean well. But they don't see me. Not all of me." Jennifer's hand found hers, squeezing. "Show them. Or don't. But no, I see you." The simplicity cracked something open in Betty, a sob catching in her throat, released in a hug that drew stares but silenced doubts. The afternoon blurred into Delaware's flatlands, the train's speed a metaphor for momentum unchecked. They journaled together, Betty's prose sharp and probing, Jennifer's illustrations fluid and evocative, pages filling with us. Sketches of intertwined hands against railings, words capturing the arch of a back in ecstasy. But as Baltimore loomed, the first major stop, anxiety coiled. What if paths diverge here? Jennifer voiced the fear aloud, packing her bag with mechanical precision, the zippers rasp grating. Betty pulled her into the vestibule, rain from an earlier shower still beating on the metal. "Then we fight the schedule." Their goodbye, if it was one, was a torrent. Kisses bruising, hands clutching, the platform call a cruel interruption. Jennifer stayed aboard, bound for Portland. Betty's ticket ended here, but her resolve didn't. "Wait for me," she breathed, boarding the connecting line west, eyes locked until the curve swallowed them. Reunion came swift, A mad dash through Penn Station's underbelly, escalators humming with commuter haste. Betty emerged breathless, satchel swinging, straight into Jennifer's arms amid the throng. "Couldn't leave you behind," she panted, the crush of bodies fading to their bubble. Cheers erupted from strangers, a small crowd of queer travelers who'd overheard their plight, claps and whoops blending with the PA's drone. Laughter bubbled, tears mixing as they collapsed into seats, hands clasped like lifelines. The train to Philadelphia pulled out, the city lights receding, their story hurtling forward. Twilight draped the Jersey marshes in indigo as the Northeast Regional merged them onward. The cars sway a familiar lullaby now laced with triumph. Betty leaned against Jennifer in the quiet car, her head on a shoulder that fit like it was carved for the purpose, the faint hum of air conditioning mingling with their synced breathing. "That was cinematic," Jennifer murmured, fingers interlacing with Betty's, nails scraping lightly in affection. Betty chuckled, the vibration rumbling through them. Netflix would eat it up. But this us is better unscripted. Outside, fireflies danced erratic over brackish waters, mirroring the sparks still flickering in their veins from the station's sprint. Sleep claimed them, tangled dreams weaving rails into endless horizons. Day 4 dawned crisp, the train slicing through Pennsylvania's farmlands once more, but now with purpose renewed. Breakfast brought mimosas smuggled from the cafe, orange juice tart, champagne bubbly, clinking plastic cups and a mock toast. "To detours," Jennifer proposed, her green eyes sparkling like dew-kissed leaves. Betty clinked back, the fizz tickling her nose. "And destinations." Conversation flowed deeper. Betty recounting her first crush, a tomboy poet in Spelman College's library stacks, the stolen glances over dog-eared Neruda. Jennifer confessing high school sketches of the art teacher, Ms. Riley, whose laugh echoed in every line she drew. Laughter punctuated the tales, but so did pauses, heavy with the what-ifs they dodged, the closets cracked open. The observation car offered panoramic respite, sunlight gilding the fields as they settled with books. Betty's worn copy of Audre Lorde's essays, Jennifer's tablet loaded with digital palettes. "Read to me," Jennifer requested, feet tucked under Betty's thigh, the contact casual yet charged. Betty obliged, voice rolling like distant thunder over lines of defiance and desire, each word a caress. Jennifer sketched idly, capturing Betty's animated features, the furrow of brow, the curve of lip, until the stylist paused. "You're my muse now," she said, turning the screen. A portrait alive with emotion, Betty's eyes fierce and tender. Heat bloomed in Betty's chest, spilling into a kiss that drew a discreet cough from the attendant passing by. They broke apart grinning, hands squeezing apologies unspoken. Lunch interrupted with club sandwiches, mayo seeping onto plates, the cafe's chatter a backdrop of Midwestern accents swapping weather woes. But their table was an island. Knees pressing, whispers trading, dreams of futures unbound. Betty pitching a book on queer migrations, Jennifer envisioning murals spanning city blocks, their talents entwining like vines. Yet shadows lingered. A family nearby, mom, dad, 2 kids, stared openly, the boys' point drawing whispers. "Look, the ladies are holding hands." The words, innocent, landed like shrapnel. Jennifer stiffened, color draining. Betty's grip tightened, a silent vow. "Let them see," she murmured, chin lifting. The mother hushed the child, but the moment etched, a reminder of worlds not yet won. Afternoon brought the Delaware water gap, cliffs rising sheer and misted, the river below a glittering ribbon. They ventured to the open vestibule, wind whipping scarves and resolve, the roar drowning doubts. "I almost got off in Baltimore," Jennifer yelled over the gale, auburn strands lashing her face. Betty pulled her close, body shielding, lips brushing ear. "Glad you didn't. This view's nothing without you." They lingered until numbness set in, retreating rosy-cheeked, the adrenaline fueling a playful wrestle back in the berth, giggling tussles ending in pinned wrists and surrendered kisses, the bunk a battlefield of joy. Evening deepened over New Jersey's industrial sprawl, factories hulking like sleeping beasts, sodium lights flickering awake. Dinner was pasta from the cart, al dente strands twirled on forks, red sauce staining lips for excuses to lean in and wipe. Stories turned poignant. Betty's voice cracking on her brother's wedding last summer, The bouquet toss she dodged with a feigned bathroom run, heart splintering in the stall's fluorescent glare. Jennifer listened hand over heart, then shared her own fracture, the therapy sessions post-breakup, couch confessions of, "I'm not straight, I'm me." The counselor's not a lifeline in the void. Tears fell unchecked, salt mingling with marinara, but so did resolve. Tissues passed, hugs fierce, the meal a communion. Night cloaked them in the dome car, stars wheeling overhead as the train paused at a siding, letting a freight thunder past, boxcars rattling like bones, the vibration thrumming through seats. Jennifer's head rested on Betty's lap, fingers toying with belt loops. "What scares you most?" she asked, voice a thread in the dark. Betty stared at constellations, the answer rising slow. "Losing this. You." Silence stretched, broken only by the freight's fading wail. Jennifer sat up, cupping Betty's face, thumb stroking jaw. "Then hold on." Their kiss was a seal deep and anchoring, leading them below decks to the birth sanctuary. Lovemaking unfolded unhurried. Kisses trailing spines, tongues teasing peaks, bodies arching in unison. The climax a shared shudder that echoed the stars' quiet fire. Sleep followed, limbs heavy, dreams of endless tracks. Morning 5 crested in New York's shadow, the Empire service linking them north before the westward pivot. Coffee steamed, black and fortifying as they plotted. Emails fired to agents, sketches digitized for pitches, a joint Instagram born in whispers. Love train diaries, anonymous yet bold. Excitement crackled, but so did the pull of realities. Betty's inbox swelling with deadlines, Jennifer's freelance deadline looming in Portland. "We make it work," Betty insisted over omelets, eggs fluffy and golden. Jennifer nodded, but her eyes held the horizon's uncertainty. The lounge buzzed with transfers at Albany, passengers shuffling like actors changing scenes. They claimed a corner booth, knees knocking, watching the ballet. An elderly couple nearby, silver hair, matching sweaters, smiled knowingly, the woman's wink sparking grins. "Reminds me of us 60 years back," she confided, her partner's hand patting hers. Stories swapped. Their elopement on this very route, defying families in '64. Inspiration bloomed. Betty's notebook filling with notes, Jennifer's phone snapping candid shots. The exchange fortified, a bridge across decades. Afternoon wove through the Adirondacks' fringes, lakes mirroring pines, the air crisp with conifer bite even inside. They hiked the car's length, stretching legs, pausing at windows for photos, selfies with goofy filters, genuine embraces against backdrops of blue. But solitude called. In the empty cafe they slow danced to phantom music, Jennifer's cheek on Betty's shoulder, the sway sinking with wheels. "This is home," Jennifer breathed, the words a vow. Betty's arms tightened, scent of pine and promise enveloping. As Schenectady faded, tension crested. A voicemail from Betty's editor. "Hayes, that queer piece? Run it. Raw as you wrote." Elation surged, but so did fear, exposure's double edge. Jennifer pulled her into the restroom's confines, door locked, mirror reflecting flushed faces. "Proud of you," she whispered, hands sliding under shirts, touches igniting. The mirror fogged with their heat, quick and fervent, gasps echoing off tile, release a defiant gasp against the basin. Emerging composed, they shared a secret smile, the world none the wiser. Dusk settled over Vermont's Green Mountains, the Ethan Allen Express borrowing them south briefly before the loop west. Dinner. Grilled cheese, gooey and nostalgic, evoking childhood comforts twisted anew. Talk turned to endings. Not theirs but potentials. What if Portland claimed Jennifer full-time? Betty's throat tightened, sandwich turning to paste. "We visit. Weekend warriors." Jennifer's foot hooked her calf under the table, grounding. Or relocate. Together. The idea dangled, tantalizing as stars emerged. Night's embrace in the sleeper was tender, fingertips mapping scars, both literal and not. Jennifer's appendix line from '09, Betty's emotional ones from rejections past. Whispers wove futures. A cabin in the Cascades, city lofts overlooking bays. Lovemaking was worship, slow lapse of tongue, fingers curling just so, peaks scaled in tandem, the afterglow a cradle of sighs. Dawn teased through curtains, the train curving toward commitments kept. The final leg dawned over Massachusetts' Berkshires, mist veiling peaks like veils on a bride. The train's whistle a clarion for arrivals imminent. Betty stirred in the bunk, Jennifer's form a warm curve against her. The night's echoes lingering in tousled sheets and the faint musk of satiation. Coffee procured, they savored it on the platform at a whistle stop. Chilled air nipping cheeks, the scent of damp earth and diesel a heady brew. Last stretch, Jennifer said, steam curling from her mug, green eyes tracing Betty's profile. Betty nodded, the word heavy. Ours though. Hands clasped, they reboard. The doors hiss a punctuation on solitude's end. Morning unfolded in the dining car. French toast sticky sweet. Syrup pooling like amber promises. Plans solidified. Portland in 2 days for Jennifer's mural unveil. Betty tagging along. Her laptop humming with article drafts fueled by their saga. Co-author. Betty teased. Fork spearing a berry. Jennifer's grin lit the space. Illustrator at least. Laughter rippled, drawing smiles from tables adjacent. The car a microcosm of connections forged in motion. Approaching Worcester, the urban fringe encroached. Suburbs sprawling, billboards hawking dreams deferred. Doubt resurfaced, insidious. A text from Jennifer's mother. Heard you're traveling. With who? Innocuous yet probing. Betty watched her thumb hover, delete, rewrite. Tell her, Betty urged softly, over cooling eggs. Jennifer exhaled, the send button yielding. A friend. More soon. The reply pinged swift. Love hearts, no questions, easing the knot. Betty's own call to Atlanta followed, speaker on, her father's gravel voice. Sounds like you're chasing lightning, girl. Something like that, Betty replied, glancing at Jennifer, the warmth blooming. Afternoon crested in Boston's orbit, harbors glinting under sun, the train's path a vein to the heart. They wandered the lounge, claiming the dome for views unmatched, sailboats dotting bays, gulls wheeling white against blue. Journals opened. Betty's prose now collaborative, Jennifer's inks bleeding into margins, their narrative a tapestry. A passenger, an out professor from Tufts, overheard, joining with tales of 80s marches, her wife's hand in hers a testament. Wisdom exchanged. Love's the revolution, she said, eyes twinkling. The trio toasted with water bottles, bonds ephemeral yet enduring. As Springfield loomed, the climax brewed. Not in fury but revelation. Jennifer pulled Betty to the vestibule, wind roaring, her voice cutting through. I love you. The words landed simple, profound, stripping pretense. Betty's heart seized, tears pricking. Love you too. Fierce. They clung, kisses salt-stung, the platform rushed below a blur. No grand gestures needed. The admission was the peak, emotions cresting in raw honesty, the train's jolt underscoring resolve. Evening blanketed the Hudson Valley, cliffs majestic in twilight, the Empire Service's rhythm a dirge-turned anthem. Dinner. Burgers rare, juices mingling on plates, conversations laced with futures, joint applications for grants, road trips in RVs, rings optional but rings of commitment etched. Laughter flowed free, fears voiced and vanquished, the valley's shadows yielding to inner light. Night's vigil in the birth was sacred, bodies aligning, touches reverent, the love-making a culmination. Slow builds to shattering releases, names chanted like prayers, afterglow a hush of traced tattoos and whispered oaths. Sleep came deep, dreams of stations shared, not parted. Dawn 6 broke golden over the Catskills, the train descending to New York's maw, but their arc arced higher. At Penn Station's chaos, echoes booming, crowds surging. They emerged hand in hand, bags light, spirits laden. No tearful goodbyes, instead, tickets repurchased westward, the Lakeshore Limited waiting like fate's redo. To Portland, Jennifer said, boarding arm-linked. Betty squeezed, the platform receding. And beyond. Months later, in a rain-washed Seattle loft overlooking Puget Sound, Betty's book launch drew crowds. Pages alive with their tracks, Jennifer's covers vivid. Toasts rang. To hearts in motion, love's undeterred. Family came, Atlanta kin with tentative hugs, Milwaukee parents beaming through tears. Miss Hayes pulled Jennifer aside. You make her shine. Mr. Cole clapped Betty's back. Welcome aboard. Vows exchanged quiet at dusk, On a ferry slicing waves. Rings simple bands engraved with rails. The world spun on, but there's looped eternal. Detours to destinations, a love train unbound. In the quiet after, curled on their couch to thunder's rumble, Betty traced Jennifer's palm. Worth every mile. Jennifer smiled, kiss ceiling. Every one. Outside rain pattered, but inside dawn eternal.